Good day, Kavibal, and welcome to our Learn at Home Facebook Live. For the discussion today, the topic will be on Diagnosing Students Lexile Levels, Establishing Learners' Vocabulary. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions on the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kavibal. And now, to proceed with our webinar this evening, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Our speaker today is 25 years of age, also known as PJ Tenten Lee. He is a writer by heart and a bibliophile. He was born on October 22, 1994 in Bataan, Philippines. He served as a council secretary in the student government and graduated with a bachelor's degree in secondary education, major in English, in Bataan Peninsula State University. He eventually passed the licensure examination for teachers. Throughout the years, he spent on studying language and literature to help him improve his knowledge and wisdom in writing prose and poetry. Furthermore, he has been a volunteer and an advocate of Project Duke, a non-government organization that teaches and motivates out-of-school youth using therapy, reading strategy, and Balangay Bayani that extends leadership, community, and spiritual services and campaigns. He recently finished his Master of Arts in Education, major in Language Education at Bataan Peninsula State University main campus, and currently teaching English and research subjects in senior high school level. The academe is EC Bernabe National High School. He is also a local lecturer at Dr. Carl E. Balita Review Center as he teaches general education, English, professional education subjects, and specialization English. Mr. Santos has been a community trainer of the U.S. Peace Corps for 3 years and has also received awards in leadership, essay writing, and fiction writing. He provides free online English tutorial to students and extends coaching in research and creative writing. He serves as a resource speaker in the local and national seminars and trainings in reading and creative writing. Now, he enjoys his time teaching full-time and volunteering in various organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Paulo Joseph P. Santos.
Thank you so much po sa Vibal Group po and to Dr. Leonie Lobasis Capos for inviting me to become your distinguished guest speaker for tonight. So let me share the screen po for my topic. Okay. Ma'am, nakikita naman po. Hello po. Okay. So my topic for tonight is all about diagnosing students' Lexile levels, establishing learners' vocabulary. But before I start, let me lead you to the discussion flow. So we're going to talk about reading as a macro skill, importance of vocabulary in the learning process, establishing vocabulary through reading, which is the usual steps, and then the lecture framework for reading and diagnosing students' Lexile levels. And then I would also like I will be also explaining the integration of lexile framework and vocabulary building in learning other subject areas because definitely this is not just about English and Filipino languages. And then I'll be sharing the use of learning kits and reading materials provided by Vival. So let me start the discussion. So first, it's all about the reading as a macro skill. We all know that there are four core skills in the English language, which we also use in the Filipino subjects. Now, the four macro skills or core skills in the English language are what we call the listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And of course, we'll be talking about reading as part of the literacy for of the teachers and students believe that reading is a passive activity, but let me disagree with that because when we read, we are doing it either silently or aloud. Okay? Reading is an active skill because it involves looking into the source of symbols, becoming familiar with the patterns, the spelling, the word choice, the meaning, structure, and form, and at the same time, we are trying to create meanings from what we see. Okay? And then when we say aloud, it involves pronouncing the words, whether we pronounce it or articulate it correctly or not. So reading can be both a receptive and productive skill. Normally, the four core or macro skills in the English language are divided into two parts. The first one is what we call the receptive skills, which means the input, and the other one is what we call the productive skills or the output. Reading and listening are considered as naturally receptive skills. Because kapag halimbawa nakikinig tayo or if we listen to the people talking to in our environment, especially children, they try to grasp the words being spoken by the adults or other people around. Same with the reading process. When we read reading materials, so by just looking into the symbols, the students might be able to learn other words which they haven't seen before. So reading and listening are both receptive skills, while speaking and writing are considered as productive skills because through that or through those we produce output. However, in my presentation, as you can see, I considered reading as both receptive and productive skill. Why? Because as I've said earlier, receptive, it is done silently. While productive means we are trying to speak out, articulate, or pronounce the words, making it involved in the speaking macro skill. That's why reading is an active skill. Okay? The next one, reading must involve comprehension. Most of the times, we teach our students to learn how to read because it's part of the basic literacy. However, it's not enough if the students can read and pronounce all the words that are printed on the textual or reading materials. It must involve understanding or comprehension. So comprehension means the ability to understand something. If the students know how to read but still lack understanding or comprehension, definitely they are still considered non-readers. So for the teachers, it is crucial to teach our students on how to comprehend or understand the words that they read in a certain printed text. And of course, reading leads to word recognition. In what way? Through phonemic awareness and alphabetic principle. By looking into the sound system of the words and at the same time what the sound or letter stands for. For example, A is for apple, B is for boy, C is for cat, etc. The third thing is when the students recognize the letters or the words and then understanding the complex meaning or structure of it. And then word study, looking into the patterns of spelling and at the same time how the words change the meaning by using what we call suffixes, prefixes, etc. For example, the word peach is a verb. It is spelled as T-E-A-C-H. But when you put the E-R on it, it becomes a teacher. So from verb, it becomes a noun. And then of course, sight vocabulary means to show.
Hello po, sir. Excuse me po. Request na lang po namin patanggal po ng inyo pong microphone. Medyo inaudible po kayo. Excuse. Tapos pa-unmute na lang po ako, sir. Thank you po.
Hello po, ma'am. Naririnig na po.
Ayan, mas clear na po. Thank
Mas
you
clear
po.
po.
Yes po.
Thank you so much po. May echo pala. Okay. So I'd like to repeat that reading also involves word recognition through sight vocabulary. When we say sight vocabulary, it's what we call the pitcher or the reservoir of the students that lead them to develop more words as time goes by. So kung halimbawa ang bata, especially kindergarten up to grade 2, they have an exact amount of words known, but at the same time, as they go along to the process or different stages, nadadagdagan yung mga salitang alam nila. So that is what we call the sight vocabulary. Reading is something that is difficult to teach to our students, especially most of our learners become frustrated if they cannot understand or if they cannot decode or encode the symbols that they can see. Especially in our country, we are first taught to learn our mother tongue, which is Filipino, and then eventually we will be taught by our teachers using second language, which is English. So, ayan siya. So, what is the relevance or importance of reading to the development of vocabulary of our students? So, let me introduce first the meaning of vocabulary. Vocabulary is much more than just single words. What do we mean by that? Um, when we say vocabulary, we're not only talking about a single unit of constituent or lexis, but we are also dealing with group of words like phrases, clauses, and sentences. The mere fact that the students learn every unit or single unit of a word, they must also be able to understand how these words are put together or formed together to create a variety of meaning. For instance, if I have three words like the pronoun he, like the linking verb is, and then like the adjective handsome, the students, when they put it together, they create a description out of those words. Like he is handsome, describing the pronoun he. Okay? The three significant aspects of vocabulary knowledge are form, meaning, and use. When we say form, we refer to the structure or the combination of all the letters to form a word. The meaning refers to the semantics and pragmatics, and the use is what we call the social constructs. Vocabulary learning starts from simple to complex and by following a process related to student development. We have to make sure that the quality and quantity of the vocabulary that we give to the students will not give them a sort of difficulty, especially at an early age. Kaya nga, usually, ang mga English and Filipino teachers, when we teach vocabularies to students, we love using springboards, short stories, poems, novels in higher levels, and then we try to unlock the difficulties by giving deep vocabs or deep words, highfalutin words, and then letting the students to get the meaning using context clues and meanings from the dictionaries. However, there should be a limit. Halimbawa sa isang araw, based on research, it is not good for the students to give them the set of words and just search for the meanings in the dictionary and use it in a sentence. They must be involved in what we call localized or contextualized meanings or use of situations where they can easily relate. Okay? So, yun po yung tinatawag nating simple to complex. And at the same time, kung 5 difficult words lang ibibigay natin sa isang araw, let them apply those difficult words throughout the day. Use it in conversations, daily communication with their teachers, with their peers or classmates, and at the same time, encourage them to use the words you teach when they get home. If we bombard the students with so many highfalutin words in one day, then definitely that will just get out of their minds. Hindi po nila mareretain yon. There will be no proper regression with those words taught to them. How about the importance of learning vocabulary? So the first one is comprehension improves when you know what the words mean. Okay? Wait lang po. Okay. And then words are the vital part of a communication. A robust vocabulary improves all areas of communication, meaning we have listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And then when children and adolescents improve their vocabulary, their academic and social confidence and competence improve too. And this is according to Francie Alexander in the year 2020. So this is latest. What I mean is that mostly, yung reason po kung bakit ang bata is afraid to speak in front of the class or many people is because of a very limited word knowledge or vocabulary knowledge. They do not know how to express themselves well. Although they know what to say, they just don't know how. So yun po siya. Kapag lack ang vocabulary na alam niya, there's definitely a frustration that comes or a fear of speaking that prevents the flowering of the mind. So at least we encourage our students to learn vocabulary with or through reading. So that's the importance or connection of vocabulary with reading. Sabi nga po natin, reading is not only a part of literacy. We need teachers who value the teaching of reading with love and care. teach our students on how to improve themselves and on how to venture other reading materials that will not confine them in the same genres. They have to explore and they have to try other things. In the learning process, vocabulary knowledge and its use increase the ability of a learner to grasp the lesson being taught by the teacher. Uh, Mathematics, science, and some history subjects are taught in English language. And one of the reasons why the students find it difficult or arduous to understand the lessons taught by the teacher is that they do not understand some technical terms, jargons, or specialized terms from those subjects. Like for instance, sa mathematics, pwede nilang ma-encounter ang word na polynomials, binomials, even the mean, median, mode, etc. Sa science, marami dyan sa part of a human body. If we're talking about the internal organs, so maraming technical terms. And with that, the students are trying to reach the point of or the peak of their minds to understand what is meant by the teacher. So by learning specific vocabulary or by gaining knowledge that is fit or fitted to what the teachers are discussing, the students will find it enjoyable and easy to listen to the teacher. So vocabulary knowledge is applicable not only in English and Filipino subjects, but also to the other subject areas. It further plays a vital role in learning mathematics, science, history, and other areas aside from languages. So as I've said, so this is vocabulary, its importance in the learning process through reading. So, now, we follow usually these steps in teaching vocabulary through reading. So how do we establish it? The first step is to always identify the interests of the learners about the topics or genres they prefer to read. This is a predicament in the classroom where we are teaching more than 30 or at least 40 plus students because they have different interests. Sabi nga sa theory ni Howard Gardner, yung multiple intelligences, we're dealing with so many intelligences that students possess. And in just one subject like English language, it is really important to search for or to know the interest levels of the students, whether they like fiction, nonfiction, romance, poetry, and other genres or classics. Now, the thing is it tasky for a teacher to know the interest of the learners? Definitely yes, but for the sake of our students, we have to do that. We teach the way they learn. We teach not the way we want to teach. So we have to really fit our styles, our pedagogy, our strategies to how the students learn. So dapat kung ano o kung paano sila natututo, that's the way we should teach them. Okay? So by looking into their interests, you will know what to provide to your students. You can classify them or group them. Like halimbawa, out of 30 students, there are 6 people, combination of male and female students who want, let's say, adventure stories. Then give them adventure stories because that's their interest. And then another group want a touch of romance and a touch of life philosophy. Then give them what they have or what they want. That's based on their interests. So when you are able to identify the interests of your learners, then it's not enough to just give them that interest. You have to apply contextualization and localization since our setting or locale is the Philippines. Okay lang naman magbigay ng mga worldly masterpieces that come from different countries because that's part of world literature. But in our case, we have to apply the contextualization and localization. Halimbawa po, dito sa Bataan, if we're talking about the history of Mount Samat, then we have to teach them or to give them stories about Mount Samat. In that case, they will be able to relate. Okay? Gather reading materials that will make them relate and somehow give or voice out their opinions about the topic discussed. Kapag there's a combination of interest and relationship dun sa binasa nila, the students will now form questions that they will also answer at the end of the reading process. Okay? So after applying contextualization and localization, Then you can now provide the students learning materials with enrichment activities on vocabulary building. Remember, teachers, we have our teaching reading process. We start with the pre-reading, then during reading or while reading, and then the post-reading. Make sure to somehow unlock the difficulties, especially if we are in the elementary and junior high school levels, or at the same time present them questions that they will further answer. Then you can also teach them on how to apply other reading strategies like critical reading, literal reading, skimming, and scanning. And then afterwards, let the students decide on choosing other reading selections, but still having your guidance and progress monitoring. So in the step 4, the student should have a freedom to choose other or to venture, explore other genres that they want to try. Parang you are teaching them on how to become flexible in reading, because as I've said earlier, if we're just going to confine them in genres, whether they like it or not, they will not be able to enrich themselves. So most importantly, provide activities about vocabulary. Okay, so these are the usual steps. Now, what is the connection of reading and establishing vocabulary or the usual steps in what we call the Lexile framework for reading? So I know that teachers who are listening right now are familiar with what we call PhilErie, especially in elementary and junior high school, na kung saan we are letting our students read in front of the teacher and then looking into the pronunciation of the words, kung tama ba at kung naiintindihan ba nila yung nababasa nila. Well, Lexile framework for reading is different because this is a foreign-based type of examining the reading ability and the textual difficulty of both the students and the reading material. Now, Lexile framework for reading helps children and adolescent learners to connect them with books that match their reading abilities. And then, books and other reading materials are not one size fits all. Halimbawa, nagpunta tayo sa isang mall, and then may magulang, may bata, bibili kayo ng sapatos ng anak nyo. Tapos, you have encountered a sales lady na habang nagtitingin kayo ng design ng sapatos, tinanong niya kayo, and then she asked, ano pong edad na ng inyong anak? So let's say 10 years old na po siya or 9 years old na po siya. Ay, ito po yung mga sapatos namin na fit po sa mga 10 years old and 9 years old. What if, even if the same ang age niya doon, the shoe does not fit? So it still doesn't work. So remember, grouping students according to age in assigning them anything does not always work, and it poses a disadvantage. Same with the reading material. Let's say grade 5 si bata. Grade 5 ang level niya, and then sa curriculum natin may mga naka-assign ng reading materials that are intended only for grade 5. And then we as teachers distribute the reading materials to our grade 5 students. Eh, ang problem is hindi sila pare-parehas ng reading ability. May mga grade 5 students na average, may mga grade 5 students na nagbabasa sila in a way na alam nila yung naiintindihan nila because that fits their level. Pero may mga grade 5 students na, sorry for the term, they still read as if like they're like grade 3 or grade 2. So somehow, we need to examine the different levels of reading abilities of our students in order for us teachers to provide fitted materials. Another example, a 10-year-old kid likes adventure books. So he is given an adventure story that considers his age group. But what if his reading ability is much higher than the average child's age? Kapag kasi mas mataas ang reading ability niya doon sa usual age niya, the student or the learner tries to feel bored. Very easy to sa akin, natapos ko na siya. Wala bang mas challenging? So somehow, that's how they feel. Or what if he's not reading a 10-year-old's level? Paano kung pang 10 years old yung material, pero hindi fit doon sa reading ability niya? So ito na din, dito na talaga papasok si frustration or reading frustration, and it happens both in school and at home. Kapag nasa bahay, it's what we call unintentional reading. Because the students, if they have materials at home, they can just bump on it and then read it. But in the school, we're directly teaching them how to read and answer questions, and that's what we call intentional reading. So we must always look into the level, and at the same time, kung ano ba yung nararamdaman ng mga estudyante natin habang nagbabasa sila. Madalas na problema na hanggang ngayon, it's prevalent in our society that in high school, especially junior high, if the teacher is teaching the reading, tapos sa isang oras, nagpapabasa sila ng Filipino or English reading materials, ang mga bata, very silent sila, tapos naboboard yan. Lalo na pag sinabi ng teacher, read it again for better comprehension. Kasi nga naman, kapag twice nating binabasa ang reading material, we tend to really understand the message. Excuse me. And then, if they feel bored, then ang role natin as teachers, parang tinuruan lang natin sila to read just for the sake na masagutan nila yung tanong sa huli at para lang makapagbasa ng part ng lesson natin. But the question is, did they love the story? Can they apply it in their real life situations? Meron bang moral values or core values na pwede silang i-carry out as they grow? Reading is not just academic. It prepares them for their professional growth. So that's why this framework is very important for us to know. Even if it is foreign-based, it's adapted the entire world. Okay? Another, it is an educational tool that connects learners to reading materials using a common measure called a lexile. Lexile comes from the word lexis or lexicon, meaning we are dealing with a constituent or a word. Another, it is developed after 20 years of research by US-based educational measurement company Metametrics. And you can find this website of Metametrics and help you to search for books with different lexile levels. And at the same time, on how to find for standardized tests, reading tests, that we can distribute or provide to our students to take note of their reading ability or level. The Lexile framework was adapted worldwide because it measures both reading ability and text difficulty on the same scale. Minamatch natin sila. Minamatch natin yung reading ability dun sa text difficulty. We're not just looking into the reading ability of the students and then just assign them with books or other stories. Okay? A Lexile reader measure, yun yung term po, describes a learner's reading ability, while a Lexile text measure describes the difficulty of a particular textual material or selection. Magkaiba pong testing or measurement ang ginagawa natin sa reader and sa ating text. But definitely, ang inuuna po muna natin is to distribute the test or reading test to the students to know muna yung Lexile levels nila. Bago natin ito ipapartner sa Lexile test measure or result ng difficulty ng text. So, yun po ang tinatawag natin Lexile framework for reading. Even though it is US-based, ang core ng research nila is general. It does not only talk about the curriculum of a certain country. It's general in a way that it can be used or utilized in all curricula around the world. So this is an example of a table or standards of what we call Lexile levels. Kung mapapansin niyo po, ito yung grades from 3 to 12 since we are now in K to 12. Now, note that grades 1 and 2 are not tested. Bakit po hindi natin tinetest ang grades 1 and 2 or kindergarten? Because probably nasa 50 lexiles below pa lang po ang kanilang level. Kumbaga, nandun pa lang po sila sa root or sa seed of learning languages, multi-language or what we call multilingual learners. So, ganun po siya. So, we are just building the foundation of our students from kindergarten up to grade 2 in terms of different languages. So, dito po, pag nag-start ng grade 3, meron po tayong tinatawag na below the standard or at risk. Ibig sabihin, hindi po angkop yung Lexile level nila doon sa grade level nila. And the teacher must be alarmed if that's the case. It means to say that we really have to put an emphasis or put tender care pagdating dun sa mga students who are at risk in the standard of reading. And then in this next part, partially met the standard or basic. Okay na po yung basic, ibig sabihin nakakasunod sila, pero pwede pa po nilang i-enhance ang kanilang Lexile level. And then the third one is at the standard or proficient. Ito na po yung average, okay na, they have the understanding na, pwede na po silang magtuloy-tuloy sa pagbabasa. But then we have the above the standard advanced. Ito na po yung mga batang gifted talaga pagdating sa language intelligence. So for example, we have the grade 3. Kapag at least sila, ang lexile level po is 249 lexile and below. And then kapag nasa standard or basic sila, it should be 250 to 499 lexile. And then at the standard, ito po yung average, 500 to 800 lexile. And then dun po sa advanced na, we have 801 and above lexile. Okay? So ayan po. I got the reference from the Lexile website. Now, what are the following steps in diagnosing students' Lexile levels? As I've mentioned earlier, the first thing that you have to do as teachers is to distribute a reading test to students aligned to the Lexile framework. The first question here is, where can we find a reading test? Kasi definitely hindi pa po natin na-adapt ang Lexile level in the Philippines, but we can do it even if hindi pa po ito na-adapt sa ating schools. Sabi sa nabasa ko pong article, there's no standardized talaga na reading test pagdating sa bata. It depends on the country or on the region kung anong klaseng reading test or material ang ibibigay natin sa ating mga bata. But the website will help us determine kung paano i-convert ang scores nila into Lexile levels. Halimbawa, they answered a 100-item reading test. And then they got the scores. Then we're going to convert the scores to the Lexiles. So general naman po ang Lexile level. And it is based on our curriculum talaga. Kung ano yung mga tinuturo natin or difficulties or levels na tinuturo natin sa schools. The second step is by checking the reading test, you can come up with the Lexile level of the students. Marami pong websites as long as partnered po ito sa Metametrics and sa Lexile.com. Pwede po yung TOEFL, TOEIC, or yung Scholastic. They also provide other reading materials. You can also download it. They provide it for free. Pero yung iba po, may bayad na. So, yun po. And then, after knowing the learner's Lexile levels, you can connect them with reading materials that fit to their Lexile range. In this case, hindi na po natin, halimbawa po ang ituturo nating Springboard is somehow foreign. Like in the curriculum of grade 9 textbook English, meron dong story, The Last Leaf by O. Henry. So tinuturo po siya as a Springboard. You can search the Lexile level of the story in the website. Pero paano po kapag contextualized or localized materials like Filipino-made materials ang ating ibibigay sa bata or i-distribute. There's also a platform or application in the Lexile.com and Metametrics that you can download and what do you call it? Or you can use website online para po i-upload doon yung story. I-check po nila yung word frequency, sentence difficulty or strength, and then word level, kung consistent ba ang difficulty ng mga words, and then lalabas po yung result ng Lexile ng text measure. Okay? And then the last one is, for flexible reading, know the learner's interest and pattern them with their Lexile levels to provide them more text, also intended for vocabulary development. If the teachers found out the Lexile levels of the students, it is our job to inform them kung anong level nila. Halimbawa, si student A, ikaw ay grade 10 and then you got 650 Lexiles. You have to inform them about their Lexile levels para pagdating sa independent reading, they can already choose the materials on their own. They can go to the library, they can download PDF, especially nasa technological advancement na tayo, or pwede silang magpunta sa bookstores to buy the books they need. So these are the steps in diagnosing students' Lexile levels. Now another, remember that a student can read a text with a Lexile range of 50 Lexile above and 100 Lexile below his or her Lexile measure. Paano po yon? Halimbawa, si David po may Lexile level na 840 Lexile. So he can select or be given books to read with Lexile text measure ranging from 740L to 890L. Sabi po natin, 50 lexile above. So 840 plus 50 is equal to 890. And then 840 minus 100 is equal to 740 lexile. So yung 740 lexile to 890 lexile, yun po yung tinatawag nating range ng lexile text measure na pwede nating i-provide or ipabasa sa mga bata. So magtitip po siya doon in between. Bakit po kailangan 50 above and 100 below? Because according to Metametrics, 75% is the sweet spot of reading comprehension and vocabulary development. So yun po siya. Just to provide them 75% and above, then definitely they can they are improving, they're progressing, and they are gaining a better reading comprehension. And at the same time, they're adding different words or vocabularies to their mind repertoire. Okay. Nowadays, it is not difficult to search for the titles of reading materials with corresponding Lexile text measures. There are websites like Lexile.com, online.kidsdiscover.com, Metametrics Inc., and such that can be utilized by teachers, students, and parents. Last time when I read about the topic, and then I also searched for the other books that are read by the students. Halimbawa, ito po. This is a website from Lexile.com. So kung makikita nyo po, merong search by grade. Halimbawa po, you selected grade 8. Tapos, na-test nyo na yung Lexile level ng bata, i-encode nyo lang po dito siya sa Lexile measure, and then lalabas na po yung range niya, like 550L to 700L. And then you can choose the interest of the child, whether they want animals, bugs and pets, art, creativity, music, fiction, nonfiction, until mystery and suspense. So there are varieties of choices here. Now, it will lead you to different lists of books with corresponding Lexile text measures. So, hindi na po mahirap sa teacher, lalo na't may mga websites na nagpo-provide. The problem is, sabi ko nga po kanina, hindi po included doon sa list of books or materials ang Philippine-made textbooks or materials. So, if we try to localize or contextualize, better check or upload the reading material to check the Lexile text measure. So, maraming bata po, or parents rather, ang nagpapabasa sa anak nila ng Harry Potter books. So, ito po siya. Maraming series po kasi ito by J.K. Rowling. So, we have The Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, until the Quidditch Through the Ages. And if you will notice the Lexile rank, itong Lexile rank po na tinitignan po dito is text difficulty. Doon pa lang po sa part 1 ng book, 880 Lexiles na siya. Compared po doon sa table na pinakita ko sa inyo kanina, ang taas ng Lexile difficulty or ng text measure ng Harry Potter books. Pero considered po siya as children fiction. Pinapabasa sa mga bata. So, ibig sabihin po, kahit pambatang storya na to, there are other children who will really not understand some of the words, sentences, phrases, clauses, and the entire message of the story. Kasi ang sabi po dito, after the analysis or Lexile analysis ng books na to, it is found out that this novel has appropriateness of the text, but it is inconsistent. That's why it has a higher Lexile rank. Sa bata po kasi, kapag mataas ang Lexile nila, ibig sabihin mataas po ang reading comprehension. Pero kung ang text naman po ay mataas ang Lexile level, ibig sabihin po mataas ang difficulty. So, yun po yun. Okay? So, sample novels with Lexile levels. So, integration to subject areas. It is important to take note that Lexile results are not scores. Ang score po, yung test or reading test na pinrovide natin sa kanila, halimbawa po, out of 100, nakakuha si bata ng 95, yun po yung score. Pero pag kinonvert po siya sa Lexile reader measure, yung result po, like halimbawa 550 Lexile, hindi po score ang tawag doon. Ang tawag po doon sa number na yon na may kasamang malaking L is the reading level or reading ability of our learners. Same po doon sa text. The highest possible measure is 2,000 Lexiles. Yun na po yung zenith or peak. Anything below 5 Lexiles is assessed as beginning reader. basal, novice, etc., according to scholastic.com. The Lexile framework develops learners' vocabulary skill and helps them expand their interests in all subject areas, especially if the learners are given the chance or opportunities to select on their own. If the teacher is giving them varieties of choices, by the way, hindi lang po tayo nakakonfine sa poetry, textbooks, short stories, or novels. We can also use news articles, opinion, magazines, newspapers, etc. to include in our reading selections. So, definitely meron na po tayong tinatawag na integrative learning strategy wherein we can combine English language to other subjects. Like when you are teaching subject-verb agreement, you can create a sentence about science and the students are dealing with two subject areas. So integrated learning po yun. Determining the Lexile levels of the students also assists educators in various specializations to prepare relevant textual materials. Kasi ang isa po sa mga pinoproblema natin, ang hirap mag-isip ng springboard, ang hirap mag-isip or mag-plan sa materials na ibibigay natin sa bata without knowing what they are capable of. So in this case, by applying the Lexile framework for reading, all educators in different specializations will be assisted on how to know the particular reading ability of our students. And then we can think of other selections that we can provide. We should be flexible. We should be creative. We should think of other ways that will not confine both the students and the teachers. And then reading is not only for language learning, but also for career development and professional growth. Remember, teachers, there are stanzas in reading. Sometimes we teach reading just to get just to teach the students to get the information, basic information like who are the characters in the story, what is the setting, what is the morale of the story, the theme or the gist of the story. But the question is, after looking for or finding for the basic information, what's next? Or sometimes naman, we are so absorbed with the aesthetics of reading na masyado tayong kinakain ng beauty niya or empathy. We're only developing empathy without balancing it with the basic information. Kapag hindi po balance ang tinatawag nating knowledge reading, doon po sa tinatawag na empathic reading, ibig sabihin, children only learn reading for literacy and not for understanding, not for appreciation. But when we try to combine and balance knowledge reading and aesthetic or empathic reading, then definitely the students will be able to learn independently in the selection, in the reading, in formulating questions on themselves, and in answering those questions that come in their minds. Let's face the fact that not all teachers have time to monitor our students. Masyado tayong maraming tinuturuan. Sa isang araw, ilang sections yan. But we cannot complain. But the thing is, we have to teach them to become independent para kapag kaya na nila, zone of proximal development, pag kaya na nila, we can somehow separate ourselves slowly or gradually and then mag-move tayo dun sa ibang bata na nahihirapan na. Reading is something that will make our students prosper. Kapag hirap sila sa pag-intindi, talagang affected ang ibang subject areas nila. Mathematics, science, at iba pa. So doon nag-start po lahat talaga. Reading, literacy, improving their vocabularies, and then explaining them the different uses, functions, and meanings of the words. Be careful with what we call semantics and pragmatics. The semantics are just, we're just giving meaning to the sentences or the syntactic structure. But in terms of pragmatics, we are introducing our students to social constructs or situations, how they're going to use a word, a phrase, a clause, or a sentence in certain situations based on how they read. Halimbawa, pinabasa po natin sila ng kwento. Let's say, ang kwento po is about Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Sa kultura po ng panahon ni William Shakespeare, if I'm not mistaken, Juliet was just 14 years old. Tapos ikakasal siya kay Paris. Si Romeo po ay 16 years old. So, minor de edad sila. Siyempre, pagka nabasa po ito, especially ng grade 9 students, maaaring magtanong sila, pwede pa lang ikasal or mag-asawa ng 14 to 16? Sa kultura natin, pragmatically speaking, contextually speaking, hindi pa po siya ganun ka-acceptable. I mean, doon po sa culture natin, usually 18 and above, ang kinoconsider natin as legal age to have couples, to get married, etc. So there are differences. And we must be careful doon sa mga ideas and thoughts na yun. So students will learn anywhere, whenever. Teachers should be there always. And then before I end, let me share to you sample study kits from Vibal Group. So eto po sila. Nakikita po, ask ko lang po yung from Vibal team. Hello po, ma'am. Nakikita po ba? Hello po.
Hello po, sir. Nag-freeze po yung screen nyo.
Sorry po. I-exit ko lang po.
Sige po.
Okay po. Mag-stop sharing po ako, tapos po, okay po, yakin ito na naman siya. Wait lang po Okay. So, hello po. Mag-screen sharing po ulit ako, pero ang ipapakita ko na po ay yung files po ng Vibal. So, nakikita na po? So, ayan po siya.
Yes,
let's say, ito pong academic elementary sampler. That parents, by the way, the Lexile framework for reading is not only intended for the educators and the learners, it can also be utilized by the parents. Lalo na po ngayon sa time ng pandemic, our students are in their homes, learning virtually or online, and then ang guide nila, of course, parents or siblings. So ito po. Sa example po sa Bibal, in Filipino subject, we have matatapat na alaga for elementary.
Excuse me po, sir. Hindi po nakashare po yung mismong window.
Sorry po, sorry. Wait lang po. Resume ko po. Wait lang po. Share screen. Ayan po. Nakikita na po. Halimbawa po, pakinggan at talakayin. So this is an example. We have mahalagang ideya. So sa kaliwa po, makikita yung mga ideas or objectives in terms of listening, pakikinig, pagsasalita, speaking, pagbasa, reading, pagsulat, writing. And of course, panonood or viewing is already part of the core skills or macro skills of the English and Filipino languages. So there are sample reading materials and activities provided by Vibal. That is definitely, better for our learners. Ito naman pong ikalawa, we have mga lalawigan sa rehiyon, araling panlipunan, if I'm not mistaken, and then exercises about English. So get a dialogue, get a partner and create a dialogue about each picture below. So performing more than one, this is mathematics. And then what are some ways of separating the components of mixtures? This is science. So marami pong sample ang Vibal. Definitely may mga pang high school pa po, and at the same time, let me open another. Test booklet for secondary, for instance lang po. Share screen ko po ulit. Halimbawa, ito pong isang test booklet. Secondary quarter 1. So Vibal has already provided some kits that we can utilize, especially in this time of pandemic. So if you want to purchase their reading materials and test materials, you can easily contact them via social media page on Facebook. So we have English Intermediate first quarter. And then there are questions with choices and followed by Springboard or reading material. Ito po is an example of Springboard that the student can test to read and then answer the questions that follow. So yun po siya. By the way, teachers, reading is not only segmented into the use of words and numbers. We can also provide pictures or illustrations that can help the students to understand the concepts of prints. Ito po ay part ng tinatawag nating visual learning style. So aside from letters and numbers, we can also look into the pictures. So ayan po siya. Okay po. So to go back, so ito na po, focus na po ako dito. As I end my talk po sa inyo, sa ating mga teachers and sa lahat po na nakikinig, tandaan po natin, reading is difficult, it's tasky, but if we're going to put love and tender care in teaching our students on how to love reading, they will eventually find it enjoying as they go along their year levels and until they reach their potentials in college or in their career. So, ang pagbabasa po ay hindi lamang para maging aware sila sa kung anong mga nakikita nila sa paligid. So, ang pagbabasa po ay isang uri ng skill na kung saan sineset natin sila sa isang society where there are many open opportunities. And at the same time, yung opportunities po na yun will lead them for the development of themselves holistically, combination of their minds, their hearts, and their body. So if there are no questions, I'd like to end my speech. Salamat po sa inyong lahat sa pakikinig. Thank you so much po for trusting me tonight. I'm PJ Santos po. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, we will proceed to the question and answer portion. Our first question is from Anjo Hardin. How can we encourage our students to love reading if they are always using computers and cell phones?
Excuse me po, ma'am. Ikakabit ko lang po ulit yung, yung earphones po kasi hindi ko po masyadong marinig.
Sure po.
Thank you po.
Hello po.
Hello po. Okay.
Ayan po,
So our first question is from Anjo Hardin. Okay, how can we encourage our students to love reading if they are always using computers and cell phones?
Okay po. So thank you so much po sa question na yun. Actually, yung tanong po na yan talagang isa din po yan sa mga pinaka-isip-isip ko pong predicament, especially I love reading and I am a teacher din po. And then most of the times I teach reading to my students. Sa panahon po natin,
excuse me po sir, di po kayo marinig.
Sa panahon po natin ngayon, most of our learners are really absorbed in using gadgets like cell phones and computers, lalo na pag naglalaro sila ng Mobile Legends and other computer games. So somehow, they are neglecting indirectly the love for reading. So the question is, how can we encourage our students to love reading if masyado silang stuck doon sa cellphones nila, etc.? The first thing is to introduce them some interests that are ranging from their year levels or at the same time doon sa mga gusto nilang makita. Like halimbawa, I am a senior high school teacher. I'm teaching grade 11 and grade 12. I'm going to ask them some social issues. Ano ba yung mga kadalasang nakikita nyo or napapansin nyo sa society? Halimbawa, we talk about teenage pregnancy or family. Yun yung mga interest nila or social issues na pinag-uusapan nila. By knowing the problems or social issues that they are interested of, now we can present some stories or springboard. Talking about teenage pregnancy, we can read Jose Garcia Villa's Footnote to You. Talking about family, we can encourage them to read My Father Goes to Court by Carlos Bulosan. So if they want romance, we can encourage them to read Dead Stars by Paz Marquez Benitez. So give them time to play or to use computers. But also, you have to be very, I'm not saying manipulative or controlling, but as a teacher, kailangan meron tayong power over our students. Give it as a sort of both a requirement and at the same time, a pleasure or leisure to our students. So encourage them by also sharing the lessons that you have learned about the story that you have read. Usually po, sa experience ko as a teacher, pagka nakakabasa po ako ng isang story na napakaganda, I create a journal or a video of myself discussing it with the students. And then I capture their attention. Sinasabi nila, so ano pong story yan? Bakit ang ganda po ng plot? And then I will share it to them. Ang problema po is paano nila i-download. So I can share the link or the PDF so that they can download it and then read it on their phone. So that's how we encourage our students to read. You don't have to be so manipulative na sasabihin mo, hindi kailangan magbasa ka. No. It's a different era that we have today. Iba din po ang pakikitungo ng mga bata or thinking nila. So we have to be very approachable. It will start to us as teachers. We cannot force them, but we can influence them to love reading. So ayun po. Share your experience, mostly.
Thank you so much, sir. Our next question is from Yamina Roldan. At this time of pandemic, our learners are studying at home. How can we measure the reading proficiency of a pupil?
Okay po.
Can we measure the reading proficiency of our pupils? So same case din po since kadalasan po online ngayon ang teaching and learning process and nag-distribute po tayo ng modules. We can actually conduct an online test to our students by giving them time limit, of course, para maiwasan po yung pangongopya or pagsisearch ng sagot sa internet. Actually, sa mga reading test naman po talaga, may time limit. So, si teacher, mag-set po siya ng isang synchronous online session and then magbigay ng reading test sa bata with the time limit and then after the time limit, gather their responses or their answers. And then convert it to what we call lexile level or reading ability. So ganun lang po. Wala po kasi tayong ibang magagawa aside from online and modular to use as modalities of the learning process. We cannot actually provide tests in terms of television or radio. So computer po talaga and internet ang ating means or medium for our teaching. So ayan po.
And then our last question is from Leia Reyes. Paano po yung mga magulang na di marunong magbasa? Di po nila mag-guide yung anak nila masyado. Paano po kaya yun na distance learning na po tayo?
Question na yun. I understand po no, na talaga pong may mga parents tayo na let's say hindi po nakatapos ng pag-aaral kaya hirap po silang magbasa or definitely hindi po talaga marunong magbasa. In the times of distance learning, the only thing that we can do is to provide printed materials starting with simple reading materials that can be understood by the students without the guide of the parents. So simple materials muna po. We should always start that. Kasi if we're going to give them average to complex, the problem is even if the students ask their parents kung hindi nga po maintindihan ng magulang or hindi nila mabasa yung pinapabasa ng mga anak nila, that will be nonsense or that will have no use in the learning process at home. So give a very simple material fit to the level of the child. And then afterwards, kapag nagiging na po nila yung understanding doon, gradually give them a higher level task for reading material. So, ganun po ka-importante. When I attended a webinar last month, isa po yan sa mga diniscuss, struggles of home teaching or homeschooling, especially pagdating po sa mga guides ng mga bata sa bahay. Some parents, they hire tutors or private teachers to guide their students in online class or in modular modality. But there are those who live in remote or slum areas that they rely on printed materials. So the parents should not be parang, hindi po natin sila dapat sisihin kung hindi sila marunong magbasa or magsulat or if they cannot guide or teach the students. They can only observe their learners how they learn. But please, for our teachers, we should not distribute a very difficult level of a reading material and test to our students who have parents na ganun po ang sitwasyon nila. So, yun lang po. Thank you so much po.
That's all the questions we have for now. Any last reminders to our viewers for today po?
Meron lang po akong i-share.
To stop this, diba, before po natin i-end, aside from teaching students in the school on how to read and how to love reading, meron po kasi kaming non-government organization, it's what we call Project Book, na nagtuturo din po ng pagbabasa. So for the many years that we've been there, reaching out the out-of-school youth on how to love reading, one experience is that if you put or if you select a story that will be highly appreciated dun sa students, ma-observe niyo po sila, some of them will stay quiet, not because they are bored. They will stay quiet because they have already experienced the situation that comes from the story. Another is, minsan may iiyak po yan dyan kasi affected sila, nakaka-relate sila. If you see your students doing those behaviors, it means that you have in the successful reading process. At the end of the day, reading has an effect to the mind, to the hearts, and to the souls of our children. It's like a vehicle that transfers them to different places and that locates them to different situations where they learn, where they grow as better citizens in our society. So be a catalyst of societal change by accepting that reading is part of our daily lives. Kahit matatanda na po tayo, nagbabasa po tayo, at kahit tumanda po tayo, patuloy pa rin po tayo nagbabasa. And encouraging our students to read starts with us, educators and teachers. If we influence them with a proper guidance, they will eventually follow us. Sabi nga nila, children or students believe more their teachers than their parents. So yun lang po. Thank you so much po sa lahat po na nakinig for today. I hope I was able to impart something to you. And thank you and see you if there's a different topic to be discussed. Thank you so much po. 감사합니다.
There we have it. In behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this eye-opening and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, sir. And to all our Kavibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. We encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Facebook page and YouTube channel. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much po, Debal Group.